of this second event of the season for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. 2 races coming up today, and it's race 2 that we have the grid on track for now. The drivers getting ready for another 33 minutes plus 1 lap race in, let me tell you, searing heat. So yesterday it was hot enough, 29, 30 degrees air temperature. Right at the end of the qualifying session, which set the grid for this and this afternoon's race. That was held late on yesterday afternoon. Right after that, we had a huge storm here, thunder and lightning in the background in the hills around the circuit, and torrential rain absolutely bouncing off the awnings. Carlin, with the wind whipping up, had about 12, 14 people trying to hold the awning down and fix it. And a huge storm which cleared the air. It rained for a few hours, but then we woke up this morning and it's even hotter and more humid than ever. There then you see the first 2 drivers on the grid after yesterday's qualifying session. Not much at all between these two. Dan Ticktum you've seen, and Inam Ahmed there alongside him. They've both been pole sitters already this year, and they've got a pole position each today, because on second fastest lap times, which sets the grid for the afternoon race, it's Inam that will be on pole position ahead of Dan Ticktum. And Guan Yu was on a very similar pace to those two yesterday. Each of them, in the closing minutes of the session, had one point or another provisional pole position. Dan Ticktum pinched it right at the end, a pole position out of nowhere almost, because he wasn't quicker in any one sector, but he strung a perfect, well, not quite perfect lap together, but a near perfect lap together, and overall by a few thousandths of a second he got pole. Marcus Armstrong needing a good result here after problems with his tyres yesterday. A puncture for him it was, after a clip with Dan Ticktum into the first corner, and Alex Palio had a problem yesterday off the line. He was admittedly the slightly damper side of the grid, because we had some rain before the race started, even though they all plumped for slick tyres in the end. But Alex had a worse start than everybody and dropped from 2nd on the grid down to 13th. Jan Daruvla having a much better qualifying session yesterday than he had on Friday, so he's going to be 6th on the grid for this one in his 2nd season of the championship, and he'll be even higher on the grid for this afternoon's race. His 2nd fastest lap time putting him up into the top 4. Robert Schwartzman caught a word with him before we came up to the commentary box this morning, and he says there's more to come. He said, from the car we've tweaked it, we think there's more pace to come, and there's more to come from me. I can improve my driving, so that bodes well for him, given that he finished on the podium yesterday. Ben Hinchley, who's come from the British Formula 3 Championship, has proven to be already a very consistent driver. Had 2 really good results at the opening round on the streets of Po, which was no mean feat for the rookies coming in to try and tackle the street circuit in their very first Formula 3 racing weekend, but they did that admirably. And Ferdinand Habsburg was quick in yesterday's race and got 6 places off the start, ran up in the top 5 early on, but then suffered a drama with the car and unfortunately dropped out of the race. But the Austrian going well again in yesterday's qualifying session to be 9th on the grid for this one. He'll be 10th on the grid for the race later on. And Fabio Scherer did a good job yesterday to get himself up into the points, into the top 10. And that's where he starts this morning's race, 10th on the grid. So he's driving for Timo Rumpfkarl's motor park team, the German squad, who are also the team running, albeit in the Red Bull livery, the driver on pole position, Dan Ticktum. With a huge army of fans here this weekend, Mick Schumacher has not quite got what he wanted out of the qualifying session yesterday. Combination of traffic and not quite getting the perfect lap in, putting him back 11th on the grid. However, he's going to be a bit higher up for the race this afternoon, 9th on the grid based on 2nd fastest lap times. And Yuri Vips, the 2nd Estonian in the field, alongside the returnee Ralph Aron, has certainly shown flashes of pace already in his first season in the championship, particularly at Po. This young man was absolutely sensational in his first weekend at Po, and he came here as the championship leader. Last year's Formula Renault Euro Cup champion Sasha Fanastres, the Renault Sport Academy driver, here with the Carlin Motorsport team. Carlin, who finished 2nd in the team's championship last year behind Prema, but won the drivers' championship with Lando Norris. And Nikita Troicki from 14th will be desperate to get into the points, because he finished just agonisingly outside the top 10 in yesterday's race. And he's another of the drivers here with the all-conquering Carlin team, Trevor Collins' hugely successful British squad. Ralph Aron was quite self-critical when I spoke to him after qualifying on Friday, saying, you know, I'm not sure I did a good job there. He's quite heavy on himself as the slower of the Prema drivers, but this is the circuit where he won his first race in his rookie season, so he's got fond memories of it. And we shall see how he gets on in this one, but he had a slightly off-colour qualifying session. Jonathan Aberdeen went well in the first qualifying session yesterday and finished in 8th place, on Friday rather, in 8th place, but yesterday wasn't quite so good for him, I'm afraid. There then you can see the umbrellas over the drivers. Caught up with Guan Yu Zhu this morning on the way to the cars, and he said, oh, this is going to be a hot one today. And of course, they're having to make some adjustments to the cars and the tyres to cope with the extra heat that they're going to get. It's much, much hotter than it was for the race yesterday, not just the air temperature, but the track temperature as well. And you can see the heat haze there. Prema have been quite canny with their tyres this weekend. They've saved some sets of fresh tyres. You get 3 sets of slicks to use in the qualifying and races over the weekend. And whereas Dan Ticktum has, to my knowledge, used all of his sets of slick tyres already, so he's only got used tyres to run. Drivers like Guan Yu Zhu have a fresh set of slicks, and Guan was saying he's going to spread that across the 2 races, so he'll have a mix of 2 new tyres and 2 slightly worn tyres for each of the races, rather than saving a fresh set for one race in particular. But even yesterday, which wasn't as hot as this, he was saying the tyres were overheating going off, and the back end was very loose at the end of the race. So it's Chris Hartley here in the comms box, overlooking the grid as it is now cleared. Alongside me, it's a very good morning to Dave Richardson.
Very much looking forward to this race getting underway, Chris. And as you say, you've been talking about the weather as we've gone down and through the grid, and the weather conditions today, somewhat different to those that faced you yesterday. Going to be very, very interesting. And this strategy of splitting the tyre availability over the 2 races today could prove to be critical during the course of, we'll see how it pans out, because cars are off on their installation lap.
Could certainly be a factor in this afternoon's race, the 3rd race of the weekend, but it's going to be very physically tough for these drivers in the heat. You don't expect it. I mean, this is the first race of the day here at the Hungaroring DTM race weekend it is, but already it is searing temperatures. So it's round 5 of the championship as the grid heads off. Let me give you the grid in full for this one. Dan Ticktum and Inam Ahmed making an all-British front row. The motor park driver Dan Ticktum on pole position by just 23 thousandths of a second. Right at the end of the session, where we all thought Inam Ahmed had done it, but the high-tech Bullfrog GP driver starts second, and only 56 thousandths of a second away from pole position was Guan Yu Zhu, the Chinese driver, race winner at Po, and the Prema Theodore racing driver starts 3rd. Marcus Armstrong starting 4th. He's had 2 race weekends now where he's had it coming together with Dan Ticktum, so they're, I think it's fair to say, not best of pals at the moment. Alex Palio and Jehan Deruvala round out the top 6. On row 4, Robert Schwartzman and Ben Hingley. On row 5, it's Ferdinand Habsburg and Fabio Scherer. Row 6, Mick Schumacher and Yuri Vips. Row 7, Sasha Van Astres and Akita Troicki. And then Ralph Aron and Jonathan Aberdeen on the 8th row. The 9th row, it's Marino Sato and Sebastian Fernandez. And on the 10th row of the grid to complete the top 20, Devlin De Francesco and Keivan Sori Andres. Yesterday's race was won by Dan Ticktum. Not quite a lights to flag victory, but he's now edged into the championship lead by just half a point from Ralph Aron, who finished 2nd on the road, but was one of 3 drivers to pick up a 5-second penalty for a jump start. Dan put him down from 2nd to 5th place. So Ralph otherwise would have moved himself into the championship lead. So it's Dan Ticktum, Ralph Aron, Guan Yu Zhu, the top 3 in the championship. Sasha Van Astres has dropped down to 4th place in the standings. And in the rookie classification, Sasha still leads that one. It, I think, speaks volumes of the expectation of Sasha, that we're all a bit surprised that he's lower down the grid here after being a race winner at Po. Could have had an even better weekend, but he opted for the wrong tyres. When the rain came, he was one of the drivers that had gambled on the slick tyres, so he didn't get any points in the 3rd race. So we're all slightly... we're expecting him to be higher up, but he was only mid-grid in both qualifying sessions. But you've got to remember, he's a rookie after all. But he leads the rookie championship from Inam Ahmed. They've got 62 points and 54.5 points respectively, with Robert Schwartzman 3rd in the standings. And Prema, how often have we said this over the years, lead the team standings at the moment. 113.5 points, high-tech 2nd on 76, Motor Park in 3rd place. There then already the air temperature nearly 27 degrees, track temperature likewise, and the heat haze rises. So the green flag is waved then at the back of the grid. And round 5 of the championship is about to get underway here at the Hungaroring. Red lights on, revs rise, and away we go. Dan Ticktum with a good start. Ahmed makes a slightly better start though as he goes up through the gears. We've got one staller at the back of the field. gets going now, though, and continues on his way. And I'm afraid it was the 44 car of Yuri Vips at the back of the field, but terrific start from Inam Ahmed. And coming under attack here is Dan Tictum on the way through turn 1. He's going to lose another place down to 3rd position. One of the Prema cars makes its way through ahead of him. Everybody safely through that first turn, though. Inam Ahmed leading the race here. Looks like you in 2nd place. Has got through as well. Dan Tictum there in 3rd position. And so the pole sitter, who got initially off the line okay, but as he went up through the gears, Inam Ahmed was able to rocket ship past him and get through into the lead of the race. It's Armstrong, actually, that's had another fabulous start like he did yesterday and has got through into 2nd place. So Jew is the 2nd of the Prema cars in 4th place. Alex Palio gets a decent start finally this year. He's in 5th place. Darubala in 6th position off the line. So Dan Tictum losing out as they go through the chicane for the first time in the race, all settle themselves into position. Darubala has got Mick Schumacher breathing down his neck, look, in the bright yellow helmet there in the Prema car, the red and white Prema Theodore racing car. And there they are, they're squabbling, these two over 6th position. So that means that Schumacher has had a very good start to the race, because remember, he started 11th on the grid, Dave. Yes,
and it was the second phase, I thought, of Ahmed's start that was the better one, because it's kind of in two phases, isn't it? The initial getaway, and then, as you say, as you go through the gears, and that's where Ahmed really had got it sussed, in my opinion.
Yeah, terrific stuff from him. He got pole position for the Pau Grand Prix race, that race which was red flagged, hence half points in the race, in which Ralph Aron won by virtue of a rocket ship start from the 2nd row of the grid. But it was Inam that was actually on pole position for that race. And so he seeks his first race victory of the season. We got more than half an hour to go, Dave, but should Inam win this race, that'll be 5 different winners from the first 5 races of the season.
Fantastic, isn't it?
So into turn 1 they go. We had a shot of Yuri Vips trying to fight his way up through the field after that duff start for him, and he already has picked up a couple of positions here. Alex Palio fighting with Guan Yu Zhu and just about staying ahead. This is the battle for 4th place. So it's Ahmed leading from Armstrong, Tictum 3rd, the pole sitter, Palio and Zhu right together in 4th and 5th positions. At the top of the hill into turn 4 they come. Dennis Schwartzman, Darubala and Schumacher fighting over 7th place. Habsburg is in 9th, and then rounding out the top 10, Ben Hingley into the points in the 77 car. And he's the 3rd of the rookies, so he's on for a rookie podium at the moment. He's the 4th of the rookies. Ahmed and Armstrong, both rookies, 1st and 2nd, and then Schwartzman in 6th place is the 3rd of the rookies as they work their way through. But it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on what happens with these tyres in these extremely hot conditions, Dave, as the race wears on, because another half an hour of this in this heat is going to be tough on the tyres, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, and I think that we're really going to see that in the second half of the race. It's who is able to manage the degradation best of all, and who's got the car set up to manage that degradation equally, because it is going to be very, very tough for them. So as one runs really, really wide there, just keeping an eye on that battle that was going on between Darubala and Schumacher, which is the fight that's going on for P7 at the moment. But notoriously, it's quite difficult at the Hungaroring to make a move, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. It's possible, but it's certainly not easy. We saw some moves yesterday, but of course that was made slightly easy by the fact that it was damp offline for the first part of the race. So more drivers were slipping and sliding and making mistakes coming out of corners. There was Ben Hingley having a little look at Ferdinand Habsburg. 77 car, Ben Hingley, high-tech Bullfrog GP team, run by Oliver Oakes. And further back, lots of action here. That is side-by-side action as Troicke tries to get past Aberdeen, has a luck on the way out of turn 2 into turn 3 and onto the back straight. And these two fighting over 15th place. It was 15th place. We had a good battle between Kay van Andressori and Marino Sato yesterday. So even though they're not in the points, these drivers still fighting as hard as they possibly can. And look how tight that was there. As Sebastian Fernandez was another of the driver to pick up a penalty yesterday for a jump start. Had a big look at the inside there of the number 17 car of Devlin De Francesco. So at the head of the field, at the end of the previous lap, the gap between the top two was almost a second, Ahmed, from Armstrong. Since that Armstrong, once he got that good start and had the opportunity to get past Dan Tictum, was absolutely determined to go for it, given the history between them in recent times. So Armstrong going through, and we've got 3 different teams represented in the top 3 now, which is, from a neutral's point of view, good for the sport, isn't it? With Ahmed for High-Tech Bullfrog GP, Armstrong in 2nd place for Prema, and for Motorpark Dan Tictum, there he is in 3rd place across the line. He now goes past the already quite busy grandstand here. It's well-supported event this. Come out in their droves to the Hungaroring. The Formula 3 package comes here. Smoke, though, I'm afraid, coming from the back of the VAR car of Artem Petrov, who's starting near the back of the field. Is that smoke from the bodywork of the tyre, or has he got another issue? Russian driver dropping down the order as Mick Schumacher.
He's trying now, Chris,
has a go. Yeah, De Rivler got pulled away from him on the previous lap, but Schumacher's right up there with him, and I think he's probably been spurred on by Habsburg right behind.
I agree.
Because he's suddenly appeared, hasn't he?
Habsburg, as we were making our way up to the comms booth here, Habsburg, and I remarked to you, didn't I, that he seems overnight to have grown still further. He's about 7 foot tall now. He'd got his headphones on, listening to his beats as he was heading to the car, but I think he is giving these two the hurry up, isn't he?
Yeah, it was very quick yesterday. Absolutely fantastic start. He and Marcus Armstrong, the best of the starters yesterday. So he's got good speed here, but it's all about qualifying, isn't it? And because they're so evenly matched, I mean, you could stick any one of a dozen drivers on the front row of the grid and they'd get you a podium, but it's getting that performance in qualifying which is the trick to success, especially on a track like this. Monza, somewhere like that, where you can overtake plenty, it's not such a big issue, but here it's such an important qualifying session. So De Rivler there at the moment, fending off Schumacher. De Rivler in the Carling car, the pink colour scheme, Sahara Force India protege, just about 2 or 3 tenths of a second ahead of Schumacher. As they come out of turn 13 into the right-hander at turn 14, the last corner of the lap. The race leaders go through. The gap is still 0.9 of a second between Ahmed and Armstrong, and they're both pulling away from Tictum in third position now. It's about 2.5 seconds behind them. And who's that going slowly there on track, pulling off the circuit? Zoom in, and that's the car that we saw smoking, isn't it?
Yes.
Artem Petrov.
Yes.
He's had it off, actually.
Oh, he has.
So I suspect that whatever was going wrong with the car has perhaps caused him to have that issue.
Exactly.
And go off. But that looks like the end of what's been a tough weekend. Van Amersfoort Racing was the top team. They were the team that ran Max Verstappen to third place in his rookie season. And Dan Tictum now pulls off the circuit. Looks like a mechanical, doesn't it? Rather than he's trying to get back on the track. And the motor park driver, the championship leader,
from P3.
From third position, just pulled off the circuit. So that looks like a technical. There's him going wide and coming back on the circuit. And there's him having a big lock-up. He's got a braking issue then, because there's a couple of times where he's gone straight on, isn't there?
I was about to say, while we were looking at that, we've got 3 drivers under investigation for the start, and one of those has been given a drive-through penalty already, and that's Trotsky.
And Fernandez has just got one as well. For the second time running.
Right.
Oh dear, Dan Tictum. Stop, he says. I want to look at the car. He's looking at the brake, isn't he? I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, a real
I think
shame
you picked
for
that
them.
up exactly right. I think it was braking, wasn't it?
Looks that way. So, a rare failure. Don't get many breakdowns in the FIA European Formula 3 Championship, such as the standard of preparation, and certainly the motor park team, as one of the top teams, very rarely do they have problems with the cars. We're going to get a replay at the start now then, so watch for Marcus Armstrong from 4th on the grid, second back on the left, off the line okay. That was Yuri Vitz having a nightmare start. He almost stalled it, then got going again. So second from the top of your screen on the right, Armstrong. Got off the line okay, as good as anybody else. And then he picked up the momentum, didn't he?
Yeah.
Buddy Jude lost a bit of, as they went up through the gears, that's where Grant lost out.
And that was, in fairness, that you could see that was an obvious jump start, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's Schumacher having a pretty decent start. This is where Armstrong, right alongside Dan Tictum, going through, breathing in, hoping there's no contact this time, and making it through to second place. But this is the driver that got the lead of the race into turn 1 and maintains the gap. Not only does he maintain it, he's starting to build it now. Won a dozen races in the British Formula 3 Championship last year. Marcus Armstrong has come from the Italian Formula 4 Championship, both of them racing at international level in karts before they came into single-seaters a few seasons ago. In Arm's case, had a couple of years in Formula 3, MSA Formula, which was the precursor to the British Formula 4 Championship prior to that. And he's a real star for a world karting champion, and not doing too badly for a rookie, I would suggest. So Ahmed going through this. Of course, it was a tough start for these rookies. As I said, coming to pose the first round of the season, the street circuit, that was a big ask, but... it's
a baptism and a half, isn't it?
Yeah. Enon was one of the drivers that coped admirably with it. This is a bit easier for the rookies in the sense that this is one of the tracks, Dave, where they had some pre-season testing, so all the drivers are familiar with the Hungaroring.
Yeah, very fair point. As we look in Super slow-mo there at Ahmed then in the number 65 car. So Ahmed Armstrong and Palio then with Guan Yu Zhu running in P4 ahead of Robert Schwartzman, who is another one, if we're going to be talking about size issues, Chris, who I remember him in German Formula 4 when he was 3 foot nothing, and now all of a sudden he's taller than you.
It could be that. It could be that we're just shrinking again.
Maybe, yeah, fair point. Yes, fair point.
There is Alex Palio then, who struggled off the line in the races at Po, but not to the extent he struggled off the line yesterday. So he's doing a good job there. The number 8 car, the second place driver Marcus Armstrong, who Palio is trying to close the gap down to. He, of course, has now inherited third position with the loss of the BRDC McLaren Autosport winner Dan Ticktum, who retired from the race with what looked like, and this is only a guess, but looked like potentially braking issues. So Palio promoted up onto the podium with Guan Yu Zhu up to 4th place, and in 5th place it's Robert Schwartzman, the Ruvela in 6th, and Mick Schumacher you're looking at there now up to 7th place, Habsburg in 8th. Vinastres has got into the points again, so even though qualifying hasn't gone that well for him, Carlin and Sasha by and large have been making progress throughout the course of the weekend and getting better and better. So Sasha in the points and Ben Hingley in 10th place. And the driver in the frustrating position of 11th at the moment, and not in the points, is Fabio Scherer, who got 10th place yesterday.
Just for the moment, with that battle that we were watching between Schumacher and Daruvala, I would say that just for the moment, Daruvala has got the better of him, hasn't he? And Schumacher in... just be very interesting to see whether Ferdinand Habsburg is able to reduce that gap down and begin to really put the pressure on Schumacher now. So that the fight that, of course, is going on for P6, 7 and 8 at the moment. There is our race leader, though. Another one with a time penalty for a false start, interestingly, is number 44, Yuri Vims, who had that nightmare start, actually, didn't he? So you could hardly say he gained an advantage from the start. However, it's all to do with the movement before the lights go off and whether or not you inch over the sensors. They all have beady eyes and cameras upon them and sensors and so forth. So even though it was a terrible start for him and he dropped right back down towards the tail end of the field, the sensors and the rules state that he must have had pushed forward a little bit before the lights went off. So just to add insult to injury, he's now got a 5-second penalty to add on to his time. Same penalty for Sebastian Fernandez, but actually a drive-through penalty for a jump start for number 16, Nikita Troicki. So a slightly different punishment for Nikita to do with the amount that the jump was happened by. I was going to say, where is that decision made? It is actually in terms of the amount of movement, isn't there? And it's not what you can see, as you've made the point. In the grid boxes, there are sensors, there are cameras. I mean, you know, you just can't get away with it, can you?
Absolutely not. No. And yesterday, Ralph Ron was saying, you know, yes, I did on the with 2 lights remaining, I inched forward, but I stayed in my box. And he didn't believe he should have got a penalty, but that's the rule, the regulation. That's how it all works, and you have to be consistent with these things, I guess. So again, you know, Ralph was a driver that maybe didn't actually gain an advantage from it, but still suffered the penalty, which was hugely frustrating, I'm sure, for him, especially as he was going well and got himself onto the podium. So Inam Ahmed is doing what Stan Ticktum did yesterday, really, just getting into his stride after about 10 minutes of racing. He's now starting to edge away from everybody, and he's 2 seconds clear suddenly. Last lap was a 137.1, 137.5 for Armstrong in second place, 137.3 for Palio in third place. So super experienced Spaniard, who almost has the CV of a 30-year-old, but is still only 21 years of age, is catching up by 0.2 of a second. So he's got the gap down to just over 1.5 seconds now to Armstrong. So we'll see how that battle pans out. But he, I think I'm right in saying, is the quickest man on the track at the moment. The only one in the 136 is Alex Palio, 136.877. The gaps are pretty similar. The next half a dozen drivers are all lapping in the mid-137s, so the gap's staying very equal between those drivers as we go into the second third of the race. There is Ralph Lauren then from a lowly grid position. He's still not in the points, lowly by his standards at least.
Yes.
And 12th place at the moment. He's trying to catch up to Fabio Scherer, who is just in shot, so around about 1 second clear of him. It's gone through and grown that gap even more, 137.1. Armstrong's struggling a bit at the moment, isn't he? 137.8. He's the slowest one in the top 6 at the moment by some distance. So Armstrong definitely on the back foot here. And the gap between him and Palio in third place in the 39 car is down to 1.1 seconds, Dave.
Yes. So going to be a fight on, isn't there, in the the second half of this race now. So as they head into turn 1, you can see begin to sweep round there, and then you go downhill through that sequence of turns 2 and 3. There's our race leader then, Ahmed, who's doing a fantastic job at the front, isn't he? He's just got everything completely under control. He and the car working perfectly, and as you say, they were here at the Hungaroring circuit testing here, so they know the circuit, don't they? And he looks really, really comfortable.
Absolutely right, yeah. He knows how to lead a race or two, given his performance in the UK last year. And he's a terrific character as well. I caught up with him at Poe, and he's very bubbly, energetic character, lively, and not really kind of racing driver like, if you know what I mean. He's not been, told to say this or told to say that. He's not. I mean, he's incredibly media friendly, but he's real. When you're talking to him, you get the real in him. He's a good laugh as well. So, terrific driver. Another tall driver, actually. A few of them in the championship. Jan Daruvla there, still being harassed by Mick Schumacher. The Premier team watching on. But even though the results haven't quite come, I mean, he went well yesterday, but the results didn't come at Poe, and qualifying was a bit of a struggle yesterday. But Mick has definitely made a big step forward this year, I would say. Lots of free practice sessions and tests, he's been topping the time, so just needs to get it all together. But as one or two drivers were telling me on Friday, it's so competitive. You've got to have everything perfect all the time to be successful in this. And I don't think we're going to get anybody winning 6, 7, 8 races this year. It's going to be spread between at least half a dozen drivers.
And that actually is part of the attraction, isn't it? Because, you've got talent all the way through the field. I mean, even from the rookies, incredible race talent we're watching here. Mick Schumacher then, of course, into his second season of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship now. And in fairness, as many of us said in the closed season, this is the year that Mick really has got to deliver, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Same for a few drivers, actually. Ralph Aron would probably put himself in that category.
Yes, that's fair.
And Guan Yu Zhu as well, because he's one of the drivers, and Marcus Armstrong he's another, although he's a rookie this year, one of the drivers that's got the Ferrari driver academy behind him. So, Guan actually lives at Maranello now. Train, go to the gym every single morning, early in the morning. It's a pretty intense program for them. Fantastic opportunity for them, but, you've got to remember as well that these drivers, not just the pressure they put on themselves, there's a lot of pressure to succeed around them, particularly those on these development schemes linked to Formula 1 teams.
Yeah, it's critical for them to be able to, it's a great rucksack to have on your back that you are part of that, but of course with that comes the pressure as well.
That's right.
You have to perform. I mean, I think it's fair to say that, of all the academies and all the junior programs that you can be with, perhaps the one that is the most perhaps aggressive is always the Red Bull program, and you and I can name a number of drivers that have been in the Red Bull program and suddenly been ousted, but have gone on to have very successful careers nonetheless.
That's right, yeah, for short periods of time. There you go, there's the Schumacher Support Club. You can hear, it's a bit like being a football match sometimes, you can hear suddenly this loud chanting that comes, and you turn around and there's a group of 20 fans, all with Mick Schumacher t-shirts. So it was exactly the same last year, and he's got a proper fan base, so he's a bit of a star in the paddock here. And I caught up with him on Friday, I think it was, Friday after he qualified well. And he's a really nice, likeable, smiley, happy young man. He's a good guy from my first impressions. And
no, you're absolutely right. I think I told you the story at the Formula 3 awards ceremony last year, which I co-hosted. He doesn't mind having the rib taken out of him at all. We had some good fun up there on the stage. So no, really likeable character, isn't he? Absolutely.
Great. Super slow-mo shots here then of drivers, their different approaches to the chicane, and curb hopping there. That's Alex Palio. See right into his eyes through there. It's the sort of track where a bit like Poe, I suppose, you've got to use the curbs to get through the corner. It's the best way through the corner. They're not as brutal as some of the curbs at Poe, but they're riding them quite smoothly. Cars aren't being bounced around, and suspensions aren't being too tested, I would say. So coming into turn 14, number 1 car of Guan Yu Zhu, blue and white machine, is his teammate, it's a different livery in the S&P Russia program behind him. Robert Schwartzman, who competed alongside drivers like Sasha Van Astres and Dan Tincton in the Formula Renault Euro Cup last year. Robert finishing in the top 3 in the championship, and all progressed into this category now. And so we've still got Ahmed, Armstrong and Palio, the top 3. The gap from first to second is 3.1 seconds. And it's a just about a second between second and third. So the gap did come down quite a bit for a few laps, but Armstrong has responded to a point now, and he's lapping more or less similar times to Palio. A couple of laps ago, the second quickest driver on the track was Troika, who of course had his drive-through penalty, and perhaps the red mist had come down. 22nd, but he was flying at one point. He set the fastest first sector time of the whole race.
Often the case, you get the bit between the teeth once something has happened like that, don't you? Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, he's pretty much running around on his own.
Yes.
Most of a lap down now, so nobody to pull him along. And then Alex Palio in third place, pushing hard. He raced in F2, GP3, Japanese Formula 3 last year. So although he's new to this championship, he doesn't get classified as a rookie because he's raced already for a number of seasons at a high level.
And as you said, he's got the CV of a 30-year-old racing driver, hasn't he? I mean, I was commentating on him. He had a guest drive in a GT campaign.
Right.
I think he took a win. He certainly took a podium, if not a win. It was in his native Spain, so it was obvious that he was a guest to be chosen. But he's one of those drivers that actually you could put him on a sack barrow around a track and he would podium, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
He's just got so much natural talent and is very, as you say, very adaptable, can drive anything.
A nice guy to talk to. From Barcelona, where he lives, terrific city, and doing a very good job, as I think most of us probably expected when he came into this championship. He's adapted very quickly. He's with a strong team as well. Tech now back into the Formula 3 championship for a few seasons, racing over in Asia, Formula 3 this year as well as a team, as an outfit. The gap still just over 3 seconds between the top two, and actually on that lap Armstrong pulled away by a tenth of a second from Palio, so that was Palio going a bit slower actually. He lost about a tenth there himself, still 137.5 for Armstrong, who's uber consistent. There's Marco Asmi, just saw a shot of him in the blue t-shirt, who looks after Ralph Ferron and Yuri Vips, the Estonian drivers, former British F3 champion, still rating himself in recent times, passing on all of his great experience from his wealth of different championships he's raced in. There is the third place driver then, Alex Palio, 37.6, just falling away by a tenth from second place on the previous lap, but still quicker than Rani Zhu in fourth position, who is only 1.4 seconds clear of Robert Schwartzman in fifth place. It was a bit quicker on the previous lap. The top 5 drivers are the only drivers now still in the 1:37s, the rest of the field in the 1:38. So that lead group is starting to pull away. The exception again is Troika down in 21st place, who's done a 1:37.7. So he's clearly got good pace. I mean, he's quick enough to be in that lead group on outright pace. Again, it's just about getting that qualifying performance sorted out, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. So it's with 10 minutes or so remaining. It's going to be very interesting to see how now the drivers manage with the tyres and the heat that there is. Although after saying that, and you've kept your watchful eye on the timing screens, and you're keeping us completely up to date in terms of the gaps and also who's doing what and where. Ahmed then with a 3.3 second margin over Armstrong in P2, who himself is a second ahead of Paolo. This in replay then. And a super slow-mo shot there, and Ahmed taking plenty of curb and is certainly remaining as aggressive, which is why he has got the margin that he has. And you have to say, thus far, Chris, they all seem to be managing with the temperatures, and the car's performing well, the tyres are performing well also. So you can just begin to see the marks around the tyres. We can see it then from that shot where they're wearing the most, because it is quite punishing in terms of temperature and also the surface here. As he rounds the second from last turn, heading towards the final right-hander now. Long sweeping right-hander coming uphill a bit also, as heads towards the timing line to put another lap in the book. And last time around then it was 3.3 second margin between P1 and P2. It's actually come down by a tenth now, 3.2.
It's all marginal, all fractional, isn't it?
Yeah, it is fractional.
Yeah, man, has controlled the race beautifully, hasn't he? He's just, I mean, he looks like it almost looks effortless, doesn't it? The way he's driving the car. It is absolutely not, and he's properly hanging onto that car. It was so smooth. I've got the abacus out, Dave. 25 points for Inam Ahmed if he wins this race.
Yeah.
Will, I reckon, promote him from 5th to 1st in the championship. because of course the top two, Dan Ticktum and Ralph are on.
Yeah, both.
Dan's definitely not picking up any points, and Ralph at the moment he's outside of the points in 12th place. So I think, if my maths is correct, and it's not always the case, so this is very provisional, but Enam will move on to 58 points. Guan Yu Zhu will go up to second in the championship on 55 points, and Dan Ticktum will drop to third on 45. Ralph are on fourth on 44.5 points, and then it'll be Marcus Armstrong who will move on to 43.
Okay. Watching Ferdinand Habsburg then, who is running in P8. Trying to chase down that car of Mick Schumacher that you just saw very sideways. The gap between Duruvilla and Schumacher, I think, has come down a little bit, down to something like 5/10 now. So whether in the sort of final third of this race, Schumacher is really going to have a go now. Be interesting if we stay with the shot. We can see Schwartzman there, again with the SMP racing support that he enjoys. And there, once again, is the car of Ferdinand Habsburg. The number 62 driver running in P8. So let's just see if we can pick up that battle that is going on between Schumacher and Daruvala then, which is for P6. Right, we can see it just behind this car now. Saw it just on shot just for a moment. The number 10 car of Robert Schwartzman, super slow-mo of Schwartzman over the rumble strips and the curb then, and as you can see, lifting the wheel right off the number 10 car.
You get the sense that Habsburg has the pace to be quite a bit higher up the field, really, but qualifying scuppered him. Finished 7th in the championship last year. Was in the points here at the Hungaroring, which is almost really a home circuit for him.
See, just in the background of the shots, as we look at Schwartzman, you can see that Schumacher has got much closer now to Druvla. So there's Robert Schwartzman then running in that P5 place at the moment.
I think Schumacher's absolutely sick of staring at the gearbox.
Yeah, maybe so.
The rear wing of Druvla. He's been there, sat there underneath him the whole way through this race, pretty much, hasn't he? Yeah, you see him just in the background, and the gap still within a car length of each other. Robert Schwartzman then, proving to be super consistent this year. He, at the end of this race, if it stays as it is, will be one of only 2 drivers in the field to have scored points in every single race in the championship so far. The other being the race leader, Enam Ahmed, who's been mighty consistent as well. Rafa Ron had been in the points in every race, but sits in 12th at the moment, and he's a good 4 or 5 seconds away from the top 10, so it looks unlikely, doesn't it?
And it's that consistency, isn't it, that's so important. I mean, it's a very, very busy season for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship drivers, but every single point that you can bank is going to pay dividends for you come the end of the season.
And some of them know that. Well, I'm sure they all know that. It is possible to get some wins. You go for the win and you make the most of it, but you don't take too many risks sometimes. No. Sacha Van Astra's had exactly that conversation with him at Pau, where he'd been sat behind the race leader all the way around and opted to not attack too much. And he said, it's a long championship, and the second and the third places are the ones that are going to make the difference at the end of the season. Sensible approach.
We're going to see a late charge here from Palio to move himself up a step on the podium potentially, because all of a sudden now it's the gap has reduced, hasn't it? And Armstrong has done a good job, hasn't he? I mean, certainly hasn't troubled Ahmed, who's 3.7 seconds up the road, but we've only got 4.25 minutes left in this race. So very, very difficult, isn't it? Because every single tenth counts, and it's all very well being as quick as the car ahead of you, or even getting onto the gearbox of the car ahead of you. But you're there then running in dirty air, and you've got to try and find a way past. And here, that is difficult.
Yeah, what you can do is really put the pressure on, isn't it? And try to put the driver ahead into a mistake. And make him push harder than he wants to. Don't make his life comfortable. If you sense that he's got a car which is starting to struggle, tyres which is starting to struggle at the end of the race, make him push them even more, make him brake even later, make him get on the power even harder, and they'll wear away even more. So they can see the comfortable margin of more than 3.5 seconds for Enam Ahmed with a few minutes to go in the race. Armstrong crosses the line, and the gap to second place is just 0.7 of a second now. It's never been closer in this race, and I would say that Mick Schumacher has never been closer to Jehan Daruvala, but he has been pretty much in that position all the way through the race. Again, he's 2 lengths back, but he still shows his nose down the inside just to try and distract Jehan, make him look in the mirrors on the way to turn 1 on the brakes. Downhill now, under the bridge into turn 2. Fabulous bit of the track this, isn't it?
Yes.
You can set up a move into turn 3, coming out of turn 1 really, set up the line, dive down the inside into the right-hander at turn 3. But you've got to have a good exit, because then you go onto this back straight where you, as you can see, suddenly have to climb uphill. So if you're slow on the exit to turn 3, it kills your speed all the way up to turn 4 as they go through that left-hander now. Watching Mick Schumacher, the number 4 car in 7th place, trying to find some way to get past the Carlin driver, Deruvla. But Deruvla, of course, with a sophomore driver as well in his 2nd season, he's got a fair bit of experience and he doesn't look like budging. So Deruvla hanging on to it. They're both edged away now from Habsburg in 8th position. For Astros is still 9th. Ben Hingley is in 10th and comfortably in 10th as well. It's a 5-second gap back to Fabio Scherer in 11th place. So it looks like another good point-scoring finish for Ben in his 1st season of this championship. Heading towards the final 2 minutes then, plus a lap at the end of the race. And the race leader still in the 137s. As you'd expect in a long race, the tyres are not performing as they once did, even though the cars get lighter. About half a second now off their best times in the race, perhaps more than that actually, but only losing a little bit of time in each 5-6 minute portion of the race. So 137.9 for the leader. Actually Armstrong has done a 137.5, which he was doing 10 minutes ago. So it feels like a bit like he's managing things here, the New Zealander. He's you know, every time Palio gets a bit closer, he's able to just put a good lap in and just
responds,
respond to it.
Yes.
Yeah. So Armstrong going well there, though. The race leader, the High-Tech Bullfrog team. And can he pick up this first race victory in only his 2nd weekend? It looks likely, doesn't it? There he's in back to winning ways, because he won pretty much all the time last season. There's a nice shot.
It's been a faultless display from him, hasn't it?
As far as you can tell, I mean, obviously don't get the data, but it's hard to see that he's made any error anywhere. It's been metronomic in his pace, hasn't he? So terrific performance. Hey, as you say, with the rookies coming into this, I mean, they're all pretty, reasonably well experienced in other championships. If you get to this level, you've already been successful elsewhere. So when they get the opportunities like this, they don't crack under the pressure generally, do they, Dave? Because they all know how to win races, and most of them know how to win championships as well.
So heads to break the timing beam then. Ahmed then, who has maintained that 3.2 second advantage over Marcus Armstrong. Armstrong has taken just a 10th out of that. Palio P3, then it's Guan Yu Su, Schwartzman P5, and then it's the Deruvla and Schumacher battle over P6. I'll say battle, that isn't really a battle now. P6 for Deruvla, P7 for Schumacher. Habsburg, Nastras, and then Ben Hingley rounding out the point scorers at the moment in the top 10 with 2 laps remaining, Chris.
Indeed so, yeah. Penultimate lap for the race leader, Inam Ahmed, managing that gap, just over 3 seconds clear of Marcus Armstrong. Talk about building up experience as well. There are several drivers out there who run dual campaigns on the way up to Formula 3. So, for example, Marcus Armstrong also, as well as being very successful and champion in the Italian Formula 4, racing the German Formula 4 championship.
Indeed.
Was a front runner in that as well, wasn't he?
Yes, very much so. So a number of the drivers that we've seen in German Formula 4 that are in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship now. Even Schwartzman made some appearances in the German Formula 4, as well as that Italian campaign going back, I seem to recall. But it's the Schumacher car that we're watching at the moment, who of course was also in that, chasing down the Deruvla car ahead of him, but with only 2 laps remaining. Barring any disaster, I can't really see the order changing very much, Chris.
No, it's all looking very consistent, isn't it? Mick Schumacher has shadowed, he's put the pressure on, he's done everything to try and wrestle that position away from Deruvla, but Deruvla hasn't budged, hasn't made any errors, hasn't given any opportunities either. Mick has been close, but he's never really had the chance to get alongside, has he? So, following him along once again, but 7th place, I think he'll be pretty pleased with, given he started outside the points. He started 11th on the grid. Onto the final lap of the race we go then. Inam Ahmed, the High-Tech Bullfrog GP team, leads the race still by 3.1 seconds from Marcus Armstrong, last year's Italian F4 and champion and German F4 runner-up. Then it is Alex Palio who has dropped 2 seconds behind now. So I think Alex has settled for third position, having put the pressure on for a few laps. Guan Yu Zhu picking up consistent results this weekend. He had the win, the historic win, first ever win for a Chinese driver in the opener at Po, but didn't score points in the other 2 races, predominantly because of a bad second qualifying session. There was Ralph Aron, who is caught up now to Fabio Scherer. However, it's for 11th place. It's still worth having a go, though, because there have been instances in the past where drivers have finished 11th and somebody in the top 10 has picked up a penalty.
Yes. And
you end up getting a point or two. So it's worth putting the pressure on if he can. Yeah, Ralph Aron, an attacking driver, is definitely doing that at the moment. And he gets the back end of the car well out of shape there as he comes out of the chicane.
Trying, isn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, Ralph. He's a good driver to watch, very attacking style. But into the final corner for the final time in the race. It hasn't taken long, just 2 race weekends for Inam Ahmed to become a race winner in the FIA European Formula 3 Championship. He cruised it, over the line he goes. Marcus Armstrong with a strong second place finish after a terrific start to the race. Alex Palio gets on the podium again in third. Guan Yu Zhu has crossed the line in fourth. And then Robert Schwartzman, Jan de Rubela, Mick Schumacher across the line within a second of each other. Ferdinand Habsburg 8th, Sasha Van Astres 9th, and Ben Hingley, the final point scorer, in 10th place. So a terrific drive that. Inam Ahmed becomes the 5th different race winner in the first 5 rounds of the championship. And by my reckoning, he also moves now into the championship lead. The rest of the drivers filter through. Again, the attrition rate, pretty impressive here. There are hardly any problems for cars. The most notable one, of course, being that very early retirement in the race for the previous championship leader, Dan Tincton, who dropped out when he was running in 3rd place, having started the race from pole position. And remember, this is the driver that starts the afternoon race from pole position, Inam Ahmed, based on 2nd fastest lap time. So a chance perhaps to become the first driver to win 2 races this season.
You wouldn't bet against that, would you, on the performance that we've just seen?
No, not at all. Although certain D. Tincton might have something to say about that.
Yes.
From the outside of row 1. So too, Mr. M. Armstrong, who will be starting 3rd on the grid for the afternoon race. De Ruvela will start 4th, Zhu will start 5th, Schwartzman will start 6th, Palio will only be 7th on the grid for that race. Yuri Vips, who had a nightmare starting that one, starts 8th. Mick Schumacher is a bit higher up the grid in 9th. And he's generally been good off the line and good into turn 1 so far this weekend. So could be some good points on offer for Mick as well. And Ferdinand Habsburg will start 10th on the grid for the afternoon race. Ben Hingley 11th, Sasha Van Astres 12th, Scherer 13th, Troitke will start 14th, Ralph Aron back down in 15th place. So a tough weekend so far for Ralph Aron with one thing or another. But Inam Ahmed makes his way slowly back down to the applause of the marshals here at the Hungaroring. And the crowd as well will give, I'm sure, a warm welcome. There'll be a very warm welcome from the team and any friends and family that are here watching Inam Ahmed as well. So there is confirmation of the provisional results off the screen with Ahmed, Armstrong and Palio, the top 3 drivers. And in terms of the rookie podium, which we also have the podium for the rookies, and they have their own separate points championship as well as the main championship. Inam, of course, is a rookie. Marcus Armstrong is a rookie, so they'll get 2 sets of trophies. And Robert Schwartzman, 5th place overall, as the 3rd best rookie in the race today. So victory in round 1 to Guan Yu Zhu for the Prema Theodore Racing team. Sasha Van Astres for Carlin won round 2. And then round 3, the half points race in the rain. The GP at Po was won by Ralph Aron. Prema as there you go. There's a reaction. I'd say he's happy.
Goodness
what I would
me.
say. I told you he was a character, didn't I?
Yeah.
There's no sort of calmly getting out of the car with a shrug of the shoulders. Yeah, win a race. That is genuine joy.
Isn't that great to see, though?
Brilliant. Imagine what it's going to be like if he wins the championship. He'll explode. Fantastic stuff. Great drive that, wasn't it? Because we had Dan Tincton winning for Motorpark yesterday. It's Paul and the race engineers for the team, who indeed looks after Inam, and He's going to get a quick interview before making his way to the podium. It's the first win of the season for High-Tech as a team as well. And as I pointed out, we've already had Carlin, Kramer, Motorpark taking victories. So for the Teams Championship, it's much more wide open as well, it seems, this season, as well as for the Drivers' Championship. Slow-mo of Enam then. That all looked pretty cool, didn't it? Waving to the marshals. I think it's going to become a fan favourite over the years.
It's that sort of behaviour, isn't it? That you know, if you are characterful and oh, here we can see it again. I'll tell you what, that's a sizable leap, Chris.
Yeah, if he gives up racing one day, Olympic high jumping career awaits, I think.
Maybe so.
I mean, they are pretty fit, these guys. That's why they drive and we commentate.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes. What are you insinuating, Mr. Hartley? I don't need that.
I can't talk. You go to the gym far more than me.
Yeah, but it doesn't work. You still look better.
I didn't quite nail the landing there, Enam. That's it. I mean, I'll take a style point away from the landing. So maybe not a career in gymnastics.
You're a bit rotten there, in my opinion.
Look, you've lost the landing.
Okay.
Taking a style point away for that. You see what it means to the team as well. He's clearly got a fantastic relationship with the team and the engineers as well, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
So there is confirmation now of, good Lord, I was right.
Well done, yes. Your scoring was spot on, sir. The pencil was exactly right.
Amazing. That maths GCSE comes in handy every now and again. Enam Ahmed, 3 points clear of Guan Yu Zhu for the championship lead. Dan Ticktum down to third, Ralph Rawn down to fourth, Vanastres in fifth place, Armstrong up to sixth on 43 points. So there's the Prema Theodore Racing team, who must by now, over the years, have built an entire village to put all of their various trophies in, championship trophies, drivers' championship trophies. They're still the team to beat, but you get the sense, as I said, you're going to have a much harder run this year. They still lead the team's championship, but you've got High-Tech and Motorpark, and to a point, Carlin snapping at their heels as well this year. There are the trophies, or some of them, that are going to be awarded, some great trophies for the rookie drivers as well there, 3 trophies that they will be presented with here at the Hungaroring. Job not yet finished, of course. They can celebrate and enjoy the moment, but they'll quickly have to switch back into professional mode because they've got another race to come at the end of the day. So they'll go back, they'll have a smile, have a quick chat about the race, and then they'll start analysing the data, working out what they need to do to improve even more and make the cars even better for race 2. Here we go then. Punches the air, clenches his fist. I think he's never won a race before. He's won plenty, but he still shows that same enthusiasm, which is great. I could see a smile on the face of Marcus Armstrong as well. He's had a tough couple of races in the barriers, Po, in the wet conditions, contact and the puncture yesterday, which put him out of the race. He went back out for a while to try something different, but it was never going to happen. And now we have the British National Anthem. Enam Ahmed celebrates then his first race victory in this championship. And like you said, Dave, you wouldn't bet against him getting another one this afternoon.
Put himself in the best possible position to do so, hasn't he?
Big smile on his face, he races the trophy aloft. Having switched positions, Marcus Armstrong and Alex Palio got onto the wrong side of the podium, each swap around. From High-Tech celebrating because the team deserve their recognition as well for all the work that they put in, the endless work that they put into prepping these cars and getting them ready. And the second place trophy awarded to Marcus Armstrong, up into sixth place in the championship, his second podium finish of the year, his best finish of the year so far. And the third place trophy going to Alex Palio. Again, that's his second visit to the podium, having had a second place finish in one of the races at Po last time out. So the 3 drivers and the team representative will now pose for a few photos. You might want to run quickly if they're being handed any champagne, I suggest. Because 3 racing drivers armed with champagne equals trouble.
That's the way to open the bottle, mate. From Chris and myself, then, join us for race 3, which will be on its way later.
Das sind einige Impressionen aus Rennen Nummer 2.
Ödülleşme